Hey everyone, welcome back to Joy at Work. It's March 18, 2022. I hope you're doing well. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try and take a little bit of a more philosophic stance towards some of the things that influence me and how I think about joy at work, especially considering some of the feedback I've gotten around freedom, around choice, around the system made me do it, and things like that. So let's kick it off today by talking about choice and alternatives. I hold the position that it is only in the absence of alternatives that we do not have choice. In other words, if the alternatives, we have choice. Now, it doesn't mean that the alternatives or the consequences the alternatives bring are pleasant. No, they can be very distasteful. But that the consequences are distasteful does not mean the alternatives don't exist. They exist. We may choose not to explore those alternatives, but that is a choice. And so I often talk to people who say to me, they have no choice. I have to stay in this job, or I have to do this, or I have to accept the way this boss interacts with me, or my peers treat me, or whatever the case may be. That is rarely actually true. Very rarely is that true. In almost most of these situations, these individuals have choices, but what they've done is that they've kind of placed the choices on a scale, all the alternatives, excuse me, on a scale, and they found that, oh my goodness, some of these alternatives are risky. They might have some consequences with them if they don't go right. For example, you don't like the way your manager interacts with you. You could you have an alternative to going to a manager, maybe confronting them and saying like, "Hey, I don't like how our relationship is going." But when you think about that and think about the way the conversation might go, you say, "I don't want to do that. I'm going to just continue to accept the way this relationship is." In that moment, you've made a choice. And that's what it means to be free. And that's why it's important that we don't delude ourselves into thinking that we don't have choices. Rather, what's more honest is for us to say, I have chosen X because I am concerned with the consequences that come with choosing Y. And once we begin to think about things in that way, and think about it from the perspective of, I am the one making the choice, and this is what I get as a result of the choice, we begin to take rightful ownership of authoring our lives to some degree. Now, there are aspects of our lives that we can't control. That's we all know this. But where we get to make a stand or say something or make a decision, that's for us to do. And we shouldn't sweep it under the rug by suggesting I had no choice when we truly have choices. So many of us are sometimes stuck in situations simply because we don't want to stare the alternatives in the face and have just a very honest moment of reflection with ourselves. And the other thing with being very open about the alternatives that are before us is that it makes us accountable for what's going on in our lives to a large degree. You know, there are some of us who, when things go wrong, we blame it on everybody else around us. We blame it on our manager, the work situation, the environment. Everyone's the cause, and we are the effect. And that's almost a philosophically well, it's a worldview. It's a worldview. It's how we think about the world, right? But then we've basically denied our right to choose to a large degree, and basically said, "Hey, I'll let others make choices for me." But when we take the stance or the position that we are creating the world we want to be part of, in other words, we are causing things to happen. When I decide not to confront my manager, I am contributing to my situation. When I understand that, then I potentially can begin to act on it. So the next time you say, I'm not experiencing joy at work and I really don't have a choice, I just challenge you to take a few minutes to write down the alternatives. Again, the consequences might not be pleasant, but that doesn't mean you have no choice. And maybe by recognizing you have choice, maybe by recognizing we can begin to create the world we want to become a part of in many situations, maybe, just maybe, we'll begin to experience a little joy at work. All right, see you next time. Stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.